session. The next session will be keynote speech of Bank of Thailand, Financial and Monetary Policies, The Way Forward by Dr. Veerathai Santiprabhob, Governor of the Bank of Thailand. Dr. Veerathai has more than 20 years of combined experience in economic policy design, commercial banking, and capital markets. And this session will be moderated by Dr. Pipat Luengnaruemitchai from Patra Securities, who will moderate the next session on Bank of Thailand, Financial and Monetary Policies, and the Way Forward by Dr. Veerathai Santiprabhob. And as the market has been quite volatile in the past months, we investors also take a closer look of FOMC meeting and also whether or not the Fed will increase its interest rate hike by the end of this year. And also we focus on the next FOMC meeting, which will be held in the 20th and 21st of September as well, which is the next round. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Veerathai Santiprabhob, Governor of the Bank of Thailand, and also Dr. Pipat Luengnaruemitchai to be a moderator at the Q&A session.
Chairman of the Stock Exchange of Thailand, Secretary General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, President of the Stock Exchange of Thailand, Chairman of Patra Securities, and President of Asia Pacific Bank of America Merrill Lynch. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very, very good morning to you all. It gives me a great pleasure to be back at this prestigious forum. Let me begin by thanking the Stock Exchange of Thailand, Patra Securities, and Bank of America Merrill Lynch for inviting me to be part of the 10th anniversary of Thailand Focus. I believe many of you, if not all, have learned about Thailand's reform initiatives and kept eyes on the outcomes of these developments. Today, this forum will bring you insights from the nation's key policy makers and give you a chance to learn about exciting opportunities which Thailand has to offer. As for my part, I would like to share with you my perspectives on the Bank of Thailand's financial and monetary policies. Indeed, as the Thai economy is undergoing transformation, in order to lift our growth potential, I would like to highlight the roles of monetary and financial policies in facilitating this critical transition. If you may recall, the key takeaway from my talk last year is that the Thai economy is like a car which has good suspension, but whose engine is in need of an overhaul in order to move faster. Our sound external position and strong financial institutions are analogous to that good suspension, which has so far afforded us a smooth ride on the bumpy road of global financial volatility. It has been almost a year since our last checkup, and it has indeed been an eventful year. I would like to start my talk today by visiting how the conditions of our car have developed since then. In the second part of my talk, I will discuss how the Bank of Thailand will contribute to the engine overhauling process, along with the private sector and the government, which have already launched several initiatives. In the span of just 8 months since my last Thailand Focus address, the global economy has gone through several turbulent periods. If you all may recall, on the very first working day of this year, the Shanghai Stock Index fell by 7% with 2 circuit breakers triggered in one day. Crude oil prices saw a steady rise from below $30 per barrel to over $50 before being stuck in back and forth market within the $40 to $50 range. Besides, we have again witnessed multiple rounds of volatility in the global financial markets as a result of shifting expectations of the Fed's rate hike. More recently, Brexit brought to the forefront the concerns over the health of the European economy, leaving the rest of the world with raised hope of a broad-based economic recovery. Furthermore, 6 central banks have implemented the negative interest rate policy, resulting in irregular financial market structure. An extraordinary amount of the world's sovereign debts carry negative yields. Meanwhile, major currencies have been volatile relative to the US dollar. The Japanese yen appreciated by 18%, whereas the British pound dropped by 12% year to date. As for a small open economy like Thailand, domestic financial markets inevitably felt the ripple effects of the developments and growing anxiety at the global level. Once again, risk appetite has turned towards emerging markets, and Thailand is no exception. While last year, we saw a net portfolio outflow of around 7.6 billion US dollar, the first 7 months of this year already recorded a net inflow of over 5 billion US dollar into bond and equity markets combined. 10-year bond yield hit a record low at 1.54%, while the Stock Exchange of Thailand index has marked about 20% gain to date, compared with a 14% fall just 1 year earlier. Despite volatile asset price movements, the Thai financial system remains resilient thanks to our sound external position and sound financial system. As in the past, foreign participation in the Thai bond market remains at less than 10%, while that in the stock market is around 30% of the market capitalization. Both figures take necessary actions in order to prevent them from becoming systemic risks. All in all, monetary policy in the periods ahead will continue to be a delicate balancing act between risks of inflation, growth, and financial stability. And the Monetary Policy Committee will make sure that its actions do not add vulnerability to the financial environment. Regarding our financial sector development policy, the Bank of Thailand believes that efficient and inclusive financial and payment systems can help empower our growth engine. By efficiently allocating resources to match the diverse needs of different sectors in our economy, we should be able to release the untapped potentials and therefore enhance Thailand's competitiveness. Indeed, our three master plans, namely the Financial Sector Master Plan, the Payment System Roadmap, and the Capital Account Liberalisation Master Plan, have been designed with such goals in mind. Although each plan is different in their rationales and implementation, the intended outcomes can be summarized along three key dimensions. First, to reduce costs of financial services for households and businesses. Second, to deepen financial inclusion. And third, to facilitate financial connectivity in the region. Allow me to delve into some details. Starting with reducing costs of financial services. As the Thai economy can no longer compete on supply of cheap labor, cost competitiveness in other areas are critical. In light of this objective, the Financial Sector Master Plan and the Payment System Roadmap envisage that cost savings in the financial sector due to more efficient operation of financial institutions and the payment systems would be passed on to the real sector and the households. Here I would like to note that the term financial institutions go beyond banks and finance companies to include non-bank players like e-payment service providers and fintech firms as well. The Bank of Thailand believes that the very foundation for improved financial services efficiency is through the adoption of digital technology and shared infrastructure. The former comprises digitization of operations, product offerings, and service channels. An example of the shared service initiative is the PromptPay system that the Minister of Finance mentioned about in his speech. PromptPay is an integrated retail fund transfer system that will allow individuals, businesses, and the government to transfer funds across service providers at low cost with ease, flexibility, and resilience. On top of the promotion of e-commerce, PromptPay, together with other e-payment initiatives, including, for example, share point of sales terminals, digital tax messaging, standardizations of QR codes, will lead to significant reductions in cost of cash management and paper processing, currently borne by banks, businesses, consumers, as well as the Bank of Thailand. In addition, to move from cash-based transactions to more electronic-based transactions, the move from cash-based transactions to more electronic-based transactions can potentially reduce incidences of corruption and improve governance through greater transparencies. On the regulatory front, an important development is the crafting of the Payment System Act, which aims to consolidate fragmented laws and regulations governing electronic payments. The Act will set out business rules and regulatory framework for our payment systems that meet international standards. To date, the Act has been endorsed by the Cabinet and expected to soon be presented to the National Legislative Assembly. Let me say a few words about fintech. We view fintech as an important addition to our financial service ecosystem. Fintech would give consumers more options and save operating costs for financial institutions and service providers. On the bright side, fintech firms are agile and efficient by nature. Yet, allowing certain types of them to run freely may destabilize the ecosystem. We need to promote financial innovation while ensuring that potential risks from its misuse would not contribute to systemic risks build-up. Equally important, there needs to be an adequate consumer protection. The Bank of Thailand aims to foster a symbiosis between fintech and our current financial ecosystem. Among others, we would adopt the Regulatory Sandbox framework, allowing banks and fintech firms to test their innovation with limited group of customers before launching their services to broader public. Financial institutions are also allowed to invest more flexibly in fintech-related venture capital. It is worth noting here that the benefits of fintech are not only limited to lower cost of financial services, but also greater financial inclusion, to which I now turn. Greater financial inclusion not only improves welfare of the people, but also unleashes economic potential of the previously excluded. The Bank of Thailand has focused on promoting financial system access and inclusion. For instance, e-payment channels play an important role in providing payment access at low cost. Money transfer via the PromptPay platform will be free for the amount not higher than 5,000 baht. Besides, the government will also be able to use e-payment as a means to directly transfer welfare benefits to the targeted group of end beneficiaries, as mentioned by the ministers. In addition to embracing fintech and implementing the e-payment as part of the key measures to improve financial access, other notable measures are the implementation of the Business Security Act and the expansion of databases for individual and SME borrowers. The Business Security Act, which came into effect in July of this year, expands the list of eligible collaterals for secure lending by financial institutions to include things like inventories and receivables. The passage of this act is a win-win for small businesses as well as banks. The Bank of Thailand regulations on loan classification, provisioning requirement, and valuation guidelines have already been issued to help banks adopt this new collateral regime. Ultimately, we would like to see Thailand moving from collateral-based lending towards cash flow-based lending, especially for small businesses with few or no eligible collaterals, but otherwise viable prospects. In order to do so, we need to have sufficient data for credit risk enhancement and credit risk monitoring. In light of this objective, we are developing an industry-wide SME database from pooled bank data for banks to use for their planning and risk management. In addition, we are working to amend the Credit Bureau Act to expand its membership to players like peer-to-peer lenders. These efforts would get along well with the government policies to expand the roles and coverage of Thai credit guarantee corporations to provide credit access for SMEs lacking collateral security. Ladies and gentlemen, we also look beyond our domestic market. Increasing regional integrations brings with it numerous exciting business opportunities. Thailand's strategic location at the heart of the mainland ASEAN, along with close economic relations with our neighbors, make us a natural candidate to become a regional connector of trade and financial services. We have offered many fronts to enhance such connectivity. To begin with, the Capital Account Liberalisation Master Plan aims to make our financial markets serve residents and non-residents more flexibly with diverse products and services. This would facilitate regional financial transactions. Companies with regional operations are encouraged to set up a treasury center with the flexibility of foreign exchange regulations as well as tax incentives. To date, 16 companies, most of which are multinational corporations, with intention to use Thailand as a springboard to gain access to CLMV, have already received a Treasury Center license, with several more to participate. The Bank of Thailand is also continuously promoting the use of local currency in regional trade settlement. In March this year, cross-currency dealers were appointed to act as clearing agents for the baht and the Malaysian ringgit. In the near future, we will allow securities companies to buy and sell foreign currencies within the scope of their brokerage business. Foreign corporations will also be permitted to borrow directly in Thai baht from domestic financial institutions to invest in the Greater Mekong sub-region. Also in March of this year, we have signed letter of intent with Malaysia and Indonesia, and negotiations are currently underway to establish the qualified ASEAN banks. Looking forward, this initiative should help enhance financial connectivity and improve operational flexibility of businesses in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, as I outlined above, the Bank of Thailand is committed to establishing financial infrastructure which will facilitate efficient and inclusive growth. If Thailand were to drive through the volatile and fragile global recovery, the growth engine must be modified to suit this demanding environment. The financial technology, financial inclusion, and regional connectivity are very potent tools which can use to upgrade our financial engine so that our vehicle will be agile and powerful enough to move forward effectively in the changing terrain. In the meantime, the Bank of Thailand will continue to ensure that our suspension system be well maintained in order to have a smooth ride on the bumpy road towards sustainable economic prosperity. Thank you very much for your attention.
Governor Veerathai, thank you very much for a very insightful speech. Welcome to the Thailand Focus once again, and it's an honor to have you with us today. Your speech has covered lots of grounds, and I think we would gain from getting a few more perspective from your side on a couple of issues. So let me start with the question that we talked about last year. When you were here last year, we talked about the challenges faced by the central bank in the world with deflationary threat. A year has passed. How do you assess the risk of global deflation and the challenges it poses on the Thai monetary policy?
Thank you very much, Dr. Pipat. It's always glad to be back in this forum. My view is that the concerns on global deflation has subsided a bit. Partly because of the energy prices have been stable during the past year. Last year, was a period when we saw a sharp decline in global prices, in energy prices globally, and that resulted in a sharp slowdown of inflationary pressure globally. But as we know, there's still lots of excess capacity out there. Commodity prices of in many sectors will continue to be low due to the excess capacity and the low demand owing to the fragile economic recovery. Okay? And this will have implications for countries like Thailand. On one hand, we're benefiting from the decline in energy prices, but that also have some spillover effects on certain manufacturing products and agricultural produce of Thailand. Looking ahead, I think that some factors that we have to keep in mind when we compare this year with last year. We have seen central banks of advanced economies being more proactive in tackling inflation or deflation issues. As I mentioned in my speech, you have seen central banks of advanced economies adopting unconventional policies that could have long-lasting adverse implications for the global financial system. But that shows commitment of this central bank in tackling inflation. In Thailand, we believe that inflation will return to our target band of about 1 to 4%. If not around the end of this year, it would be early next year. Last year we had negative inflation, but then with stable oil prices have been a major component of our CPI basket. So when the base effect of last year started to diminish, our inflation has returned to positive territory. But core inflation has been more or less stable at a positive level at about 0.7 or 0.8% since the beginning of the year.
And following up to that, I think, as you said, lots of central banks are resourcing to unconventional monetary policy tools. How do you assess the tools in terms of monetary policy that we have in terms of addressing the challenges that Thailand is facing right now?
Right. You're talking about the tools of the Bank of Thailand. Obviously, we have to look at the whole menu list of policy tools available. When we talk about policy tools of the central bank, I think there are four sets of tools. One is the conventional interest rate policies. Okay. Secondly, is the exchange rate policies. Thirdly, is the macro-prudential policy, which has gained a lot of interest lately, and we have seen central banks of advanced economies adopting the so-called macro-prudential policies. And lastly, we have to be mindful that there is also capital flow management policies that is also in the toolkits of central banks. So when we look at these policy tools, we have to look at how to best combine them. There's a combination of policies that we can use given situations, and these tools also need to be adaptable to the changing economic conditions and financial conditions.
All right, thank you. And getting on to a bit more sensitive issue, I think recently there's more public concern, growing concern on exchange rate volatility in particular. What's your thought and what's your approach in terms of dealing this exchange rate volatility for the Bank of Thailand?
Definitely, this is a concern not only for Thailand but for any small open economies in the current environment of global excess liquidity, and this environment will continue to be with us for long. The way we at the Bank of Thailand look at it, I would think of it as a three-step approach. Firstly, we need to help ensure that the Thai economy can withstand increasing volatility in the FX market. FX volatility will be a normal part of doing international business, and firms will need to be adapt to increasing volatility. Financial institutions will also need to be adapt to increasing volatility. Looking back since last year, volatility of the Thai baht against US dollar has been relatively lower than the currencies in our region. Daily volatility of Thai baht has been in the range of about 4.5% as compared to more than 8 or 9% in the case of Malaysian ringgit. If you look at yen volatility, or even Korean won has been double the degree of volatility of Thai baht. So Thai business will need to be able to handle this increasing volatility in the FX market. And on this front, with the Thai Banking Association, we have been developing a number of measures and initiatives. As I mentioned in my speech, regulations on foreign exchange transactions have been liberalized in a great way. Firms are encouraged to use foreign currency deposits, and we have seen increasing usage of foreign currency deposit accounts for settlements, as opposed to in the old days when exporter receiving US dollar proceeds and they had to convert it into Thai baht right away. But many of the exporters also need to import a lot of materials and content. So by increasing flexibility, in managing the FX flows through foreign currency deposit accounts. That's one of many things that we have done. We have also liberalized regulations on foreign exchange hedging and also for unwinding of the hedge positions, not only for trade, but also for investment transactions. We have also encouraged the use of local currencies for payment transactions in the region. I mentioned the baht and the ringgit in my speech. Previously, the spread was very high, and if you look at the trade between Thailand and Malaysia had continued to grow, and the Bank Negara Malaysia saw this as an opportunity to bring down the transaction costs and encourage the use of local currency to settle transactions. We have also seen increasing usage of yuan for transactions between Thailand and China. So these are examples of initiatives that we have put in place and we will continue to put in place to help ensure that the Thai businesses can handle FX volatility in a much more efficient manner. So that's basically the first line of defense. The second set of measures that we have done is to ensure that there's a balanced flows between inflows and outflows. If you look at foreign exchange regulations of Thailand, we had these legacies from the Asian financial crisis. We were very concerned that the baht would depreciate, or there would be speculation against the baht. So the regulations had not been that symmetric. So we have been amending FX regulations to ensure, to help improve balance between the inflows and outflow, and also liberalize regulations for outflows. For instance, if Thai companies would like to invest abroad, there is no limit now. If it can be proved that it's for real investment. Even for property investment, I think the limit has been lifted to $50 million per year. On capital market transactions, we have a limit that we allocated to the SEC for further allocating to the like of foreign investment funds. When we started, the limit was like $10 billion. Now it's $75 billion. So with ample international reserves, we see possibility for expanding the rooms for outflows to allow for more outflows. We have also recently liberalized regulations on non-residents baht account, basically allowing non-residents to have higher positions in baht account. So these are mechanisms to help balance the inflows and outflows. That's, I would say, the second set of initiatives. The third set of initiative, or the third set of policy tools to deal with FX volatility is unavoidable. It's the roles of the central bank. Right. Whenever we see, necessarily, when we see unstable movement of the exchange rate, that could have implications for our inflation development, financial stability, or recovery of the real economy, then the central bank will have to step in with foreign exchange intervention, or if need be, capital flow management measures, which have become, as I mentioned, part of the policy toolkits of most emerging market central banks.
And looking forward, I think the volatility could stay with us for a while, right? Given the divergence of monetary policy and the prospect of the change in the monetary policy in the industrialized countries.
Right. That's part of the new normal. Mm-hmm. I'm afraid.
Right. Okay. So should we expecting volatility going forward? Another one is we note that in the recent MPC statement, there have been a mention about the concern on financial stability risk from prolonged low level of interest rates. I think in particular, it's used the word the search for yield behavior several times in the recent MPC statement. Just curious on this issue, what the BOT sees in terms of the risk and how concerned we should be in these issues.
Let me be clear from the beginning that at present, we don't see any systemic risks of financial stability. But when we see that the rate will be low for long, and some people are even talking about low forever now, not only for low for longer. So we have to be very mindful of the sources of fragility that could emerge in the financial system so that we can prevent them from becoming systemic risks. Okay? When interest rates have been low for quite some time and we continue to be low, we have seen search for yield behaviors from investors and from depositors across different segments. So these are emerging pockets of vulnerabilities that we have to keep our eyes on and make sure that if need be, we can come up with necessary macroprudential measures to address them or to stop them from expanding to other segments of the financial system. I'll give you some examples. For general depositors, household depositors, we have seen shifts from bank deposits into deposits at saving cooperatives. Okay. There are thousands of saving cooperatives globally. Initially, saving cooperatives have been set up to serve the needs of employees within the same company, within the same organizations, or people living in the same community. But with search for yield behavior, we have seen saving cooperatives accepting deposits from associated members who don't have to work within the same company or live within the same community. And they're guaranteeing minimum return of 3%, 3.5%, 4%, and depositors are certain types of depositors have rushed into depositing with this cooperative, with not having a proper understanding of risks involved. And we also started to see saving cooperatives with excess funds lending to saving cooperatives with deficit funds. So they're starting to develop networking effects. So we have to make sure that this kind of development, we will not get out of control. And so we're working with current supervisors of saving cooperatives, which is the Ministry of Agriculture and also the Ministry of Finance to help develop the framework for governing saving cooperatives. That's one example for people at the grassroots. For educated investors, we have also seen shift in deposits to certain types of mutual funds, okay, without proper understanding of the risks involved. Certain types of funds might have invested in the so-called unrated bonds. And unrated bonds are not always bad. Okay, there are certain types of bonds that haven't been properly rated, and that already reflects the magnitude of search for yield when investors are willing to put money into non-rated bonds, looking at perhaps the issuer, the track records, and they decided to put money into the non-rated bonds. That's also a symptom of search for yield behavior. In the past, we also saw investors investing in foreign investment funds that invested in not very sound countries with not proper investment ratings, but that have already corrected itself. Okay, so we need to ensure that banks are normally the selling agents of these financial instruments. We need to ensure that banks as selling agents, they properly inform clients of the risks involved. And we also need to educate the public of the risks involved. Okay. So this is another pocket of risks that we have seen. The other concerns that I have been talking to the banks on a regular basis is the underpricing of risks of the banks when they approve credit. Okay, we need them to be mindful of the risks involved and also the possibility that there could be abrupt changes in financial conditions. If you may recall, 3 or 4 months ago, people were talking about the yield curve snapback. Okay, if that happens, what's the implications for for the credit assessments of the bank, and also on the bonds, on the types of instruments that they hold. As I mentioned earlier, we don't see major systemic risks at present, but in an event like this, and when we see that the interest rate will continue to be low for long, we need to inform the public and make the public and financial institutions aware that financial stability risks are out there, and we need to make sure that this small pocket of fragilities won't become systemic concerns.
Thank you. And a lot of these become the regulatory issues, right? Because a lot of these are traditionally outside of the Bank of Thailand purview in terms of regulations. So I guess we need the coordinated regulation to deal with this risk.
Yes, we have coordinating extremely well with the SEC and also the Insurance Commission. And even in the case of saving cooperatives, and as I mentioned earlier, we have been in close cooperation with the Ministry of Agriculture.
Okay. Thank you. And related to that, you mentioned in your speech about the delicate balancing act between the risk to growth and financial stability. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Like what is your approach? Because oftentimes it's become conflicting in itself in terms of using the monetary policy.
Definitely, when you talk about balancing acts, you mean thinking about conflicting objectives, right? Just like in the conventional thinking of monetary policies, people seem to think of trade-off between inflation and growth. But when inflation is not really a concern for countries like Thailand at present, okay, and when we see that interest rate will continue to be low for long, concerns on financial stability is something that we have to give more weight on. And as I mentioned earlier, the toolkits of central bank, and fortunately because the Bank of Thailand is also supervisor of banks and certain types of financial service providers. Okay. So we also have the supervisory roles, and we can use macroprudential as part of our toolkits.
Let me switch gear a bit and ask you about different issues. I think these days a lot of people are talking about the disruptive technology and the disruption in many industries. I think with the new technology and the financial sector development, I think that even the central banks themselves could be at risk of being disrupted. What's your thought on that, and what should be the role of the central bank to stay relevant into the future? Because we have seen things like the digital money, which could be disrupting the role of the traditional central banks, and we also see the boundaries of many financial institutions being blurred, and as a regulator, the central bank might have an issue of regulating them. What's your thought on these issues?
Right. When we heard Bill Gates say the famous sentence that banking is necessary, but banks are not, I very much hope that doesn't apply to central bank. Okay. I hope that central banking is necessary and central bank is also necessary.
Hopefully so.
But definitely to make sure that it's not a threat for central bank, as you mentioned, central banks also need to develop and embrace technology, new technology for our own operations, and also for the institutions that we supervise. For the institutions that we supervise, like banks, as I mentioned in my speech, we very much encourage banks and also non-bank financial service providers to embrace new technology, because we see a lot of opportunities to improve financial services with technology in Thailand. If we compare with our neighboring countries, the degree of electronic usage in banking in Thailand tends to be on the low side, and is a big area a big room for improvement. So we are in the process of issuing certain sets of regulations to facilitate the adoption of new financial technology. The Regulatory Sandbox is one of a few initiatives that we're working on. We already issued a consultative paper on Regulatory Sandbox to have a proper framework for banks and non-banks service providers under our supervision wishing to test new technology to targeted group of segments can come with a formal process, formal entry process, formal evaluation process, and also formal exit process. So that along the process, we can also learn about this technology and amend whatever necessary regulations to facilitate them for wider usage. We also launched a new electronic KYC regulations. KYC is an important aspect of financial services now. The old regulation was not supportive to new technology. So recently we introduced a new electronic KYC regulations. We also realized that to be able to adopt these new technologies, banks need to have flexibility in investing in them, and the old regulations of central banks seems to don't like the idea of banks investing in non-bank business. So we have already modified that regulations, giving banks a lot more flexibility in investing in technology-related companies and also venture cap. Those are some of these initiatives. There will be a lot more, and I won't go into the payment system section because the following forum will touch on electronic payment system, and you will see there are a lot of initiatives involved, and my deputy governor will also be participating in that forum. On the Bank of Thailand, for our central banking operations, we also need to make sure that we can catch up with the developments of technology. Data analytics is something that is unheard of among central banks. But we're sitting on top of tons of important data, and with a rapid change in the structure of the financial system, data analytics is a new capability that we at the Bank of Thailand see the needs to step up quickly. And so we're working with also other agencies to develop a proper big database and also data analytical capability. Cyber security is also very important, is an important risk for the financial system going forward. So the Bank of Thailand is also working with the banking associations to help ensure that we can navigate our digital path with minimum disruptions from cyber security.
Okay, great, thank you. And you mentioned several times in your speech and previous speech about the Thai economy as a car that needs the overhaul in the engine. But if you look at the new 5-year economic development plan of the government and the 20-year national strategy plan, probably we see they're forecasting 5 to 6% growth over the medium term. Given the structural limitation that you have mentioned previously, and your thought on this, how do you think about these goals? How realistic are they? And what's your view on the Thailand's potential growth?
This is a difficult question when you ask about what's the potential growth of the global economy during this period of time, and you see a lot of transition, rebalancing going on. So it's more like a moving target. But with the growth objective of about 5 to 6% set out in the National Economic Development Plan, I think that's achievable, provided that we really undertake the key reform initiatives that have been incorporated in the plan. And we're talking about major initiatives like what the Minister of Finance mentioned in his speech.
Okay. And also last year you also mentioned about things you want to achieve over the course of your governorship. How are those things have evolved so far, and how have your priorities changed, and what has been going on so far?
Well, last year when I came to this forum, it was, I think, 3 months into my governorship. So I was learning the trick of becoming a governor and had some ideas of what I wanted to achieve over the 5 years term. Fortunately, I think the priority hasn't changed. The global economic environment has been much more volatile than what we anticipated. So we had to also spend a lot of time and effort in dealing with the volatility and vulnerability that have happened over the years. But we at the Bank of Thailand, we looking at our medium-term objectives to make sure that we continue to be relevant and be effective as a central banker. That 3 sets of categories of work that we would like to achieve. Firstly is on stability. Stability is our mandate. Definitely we will need to expand our work on financial stability. Everyone is used to monetary stability, right? Stability of inflation, exchange rate. Most people are also very familiar with stability of the financial system, looking at the soundness of financial institutions. But financial stability, the interaction between macro policies, monetary conditions, and the functioning of the financial system, like the search for yield behavior, underpricing of risks, that's a new source of risks that central banks need to pay attention to. So this year, we set up a new unit within the Bank of Thailand to be in charge of financial stability. Even though our mandate, our legal mandate, does not include financial stability as one of the 3 mandates. And the other mandate is on payment system stability. And with the Payment System Act coming in place, all payment system will be supervised by the Bank of Thailand. So we also need to step up our capability to ensure stability of the payment system. So that's on the stability initiatives. On monetary stability, if I may, we also need to make sure that we have a good understanding of the changing conditions of the Thai economy. We need to understand a lot more about micro foundations of macroeconomic developments of Thailand. So we expanding resources, developing database, and networks to make sure that we on top of these issues. The second set of things that we would like to do, and I mean we, not just only me, but the executives of the Bank of Thailand, is on development. Okay. Payment system development is clear. And very fortunate that the Minister of Finance is also very committed in pushing on payment system reform. Okay. It has been on the agenda of the Bank of Thailand for a long time to help improve retail payment system network. Okay, but fortunately, this Minister of Finance is committed and saw the needs, and we help together push this forward. Market conduct is also something that is very important. Okay, we need to step up the market conduct of financial institutions. Issues that I mentioned earlier, like making sure that investors understand the risks of financial instruments that are sold to them through banks as selling agents. We also need to improve financial literacy and also financial technology literacy of the Thai people when we embark on these electronic financial services. Okay. A lot of things need to be done on the development front, and with the stable macroeconomic condition of Thailand and different buffers, the suspensions that we have, I very much hope that we can devote more time and resources on the development issues to help develop the Thai financial system going forward over the next few years. And lastly would be initiatives that would step up capability of the central bank itself. Okay, we need to ensure that we excellent in what we do. Data analysis, IT technology, economic research. We need to get a very diverse groups of people joining the central banks, because the ecosystem that we operate in has become much more diverse and different from what it used to be, and will even be more diverse. So we need to make sure that we have proper culture, proper HR, and proper tools and support. So there'll be a lot of initiatives to help improve internal excellence of the Bank of Thailand.
So thank you very much, Dr. Veerathai. That was my last question, and we wish you every success in bringing the Bank of Thailand to the new era. On behalf of Stock Exchange Thailand, Patra Securities, and Bank of America Merrill Lynch, we'd like to thank you again for being with us today. It was a pleasure having you with us. Thank you very much. Everyone, please give him a big round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for a fruitful and very interesting session from our central bank governor.